Good afternoon. My name is John Burgess, and I'm honored to be the 2021 Chairman of the Board for the Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us for our third installment of Cultivate. The mission of the Cultivate series is to fuel economic growth and facilitate the development of professional women by exploring obstacles and opportunities women encounter during their careers. The Little Rock Regional Chamber is excited to be able to provide this platform for women to share their stories of inspiration, achievement, and success. Today's session is highlighting not only our physical health and well-being, but also our mental and financial health. During this session, you will learn from these accomplished women leaders who are working to achieve what we all strive for, a successful overall work-life balance. Today's presentation will feature a Q&A session at the end of the discussion. For our virtual audience, please add your questions at any time in the Q&A space or in chat on Zoom. For our in-person audience, there are slips of paper on each of your tables where you can write questions that we will collect for our Q&A session. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsors who make these events possible. These companies value professional development for women, and we are certainly grateful for their support. Thank you to our swag bag sponsor, Apartment Hunters. Today's attendees will receive a swag bag filled with goodies from our sponsors and local businesses. Thank you to our health session sponsor, Baptist Health. Thank you to our series partner sponsors, First Security Bank, Wright Lindsay Jennings, and Southwest Power Pool. Our series lunch sponsor is Capital Sotheby's International Realty, and our Q&A session is sponsored by Delta Dental. And last, but certainly not least, we want to thank Dassault Falcon Jet for being the presenting sponsor. Dassault Falcon Jet recognizes the value of women in the workplace and events like this that bring them together. Thank you, Dassault Falcon Jet, and all our great sponsors. In a moment, we will hear from our panel. But now I'd like to welcome to the stage Lakin Holland, Communications Specialist for Dassault Falcon Jet.
Good afternoon. Dassault Falcon Jet is thrilled to be this year's presenting sponsor for the Cultivate Women's Business Series. My name is Lakin Holland, and I'm the Communications Specialist at Dassault Falcon Jet. The physical and mental well-being of our employees is top of mind at DFJ. It is one of the reasons we support events like these that help women see their potential and ways they can work to improve different situations in their lives and careers. Now it is my honor to introduce our moderator for today's panel. Amber Booth McCoy is a woman who wears many hats. Amber is the Senior Diversity Specialist for the UAMS Division for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. She leads the Office of Intercultural Education, created the UAMS Junior and Senior STEM Academies, and delivers keynote motivational and DEI-focused speeches. In addition to her duties at the largest academic health center in the state, Amber is also the CEO of her company, the Diversity Booth, an innovative, intentional, and inclusive consulting firm experienced in co-creating equitable cultures by focus on emotional growth through storytelling. In February of 2020, she added TEDx speaker to a growing list of accomplishments. Amber serves on numerous DEI-related boards and community service organizations, but of the many roles that she maintains, Mama is by far her most rewarding with an indescribable pay. Please join me in welcoming today's moderator, Amber Booth McCoy.
Your favorite diversity specialist. And as they've already said, today's conversation is with our amazing panelists, but we definitely want you to participate with us as well. So as we ask questions, you can either, if you're joining us virtually, you can place that information in chat. And if you are here with us, then there are cards on your table so that you can answer questions, right? So poll question number 1, before I introduce our panelists, I want to give our first Delta Dental poll question. Do you, it's a yes or no question, all right? So you don't have to think for a long time. Do you feel you have work-life balance in your life today? And while you are answering that, I'm going to introduce our amazing panelists. First, we have Brandy Hart. First, we have Sarah Catherine Gutierrez, the CEO of Aptus Financial. We have Kristin Lippincott, the Wellness Program Manager for Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and Brandy Harp, the Principal Broker at John Underhill Real Estate. Yeah. So let's give these ladies an amazing round of applause. Thanks. Thank you so much for taking time out of your extremely, extremely busy schedules to join us today. And even though I know how amazing you are, I want you all to have an opportunity to tell the audience a little bit about yourselves. Brandy, we'll start with you.
Well, first, I'd just say it's great to be here today. We all share a thread. I think that's very common, that we all desire to connect, grow, and are here to be inspired. So it's great to see so many familiar faces and be present with you today, especially with everything that's going on in the world that we all live in. I'm 44 years old. I am married. We'll celebrate our 21st wedding anniversary this coming September. In case my husband might be listening, just a reminder. I am raising 2 teenagers. I've got a 13-year-old son, and my daughter will be 15. So I share with Amber, one of the most important jobs that I have right now is raising 2 teenagers. I'm often on my knees praying for guidance, wisdom. I will accept any tips and any wisdom anyone has to offer. And then I'm the principal broker, so I'm a small business owner. After working at Alltel Communications for 18 years, I was able to take a leap of faith, and as a small business owner for almost a decade now, am super happy and feel very blessed to serve clients and helping them sell and purchase a home.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristin Lippincott. I just want to echo Brandy and say that I'm thrilled to be here. I think being in a room filled with strong women is one of my favorite places to be, and it's really exciting to see not just people I know, but new faces that I'll hopefully get to know as we're here. I wasn't going to say how old I am, but I'm 42. And I had an interesting road to get to where I am. So I do work in corporate health promotion, corporate wellness. I love my job. But for 12 years in a previous life, I actually worked in higher education in enrollment management. Walked away from that career, quit my job, and went back to school hoping one day I would get a great job with a great company helping people get healthy and stay healthy. And I'm lucky to do that and lead a department as well as an initiative to get everyone in Arkansas vaccinated this year and get us on the other side of this pandemic. So again, just excited to be here and can't wait to talk more with you guys about that elusive work-life wisdom that we all strive for.
Hi, everyone. And I am just excited to be in a room full of people again. And so grateful for this chance to be able to join an amazing panel and be among, again, amazing women here today. And just really quickly, so Amber would never, ever toot her own horn, but if you have not seen her February 2020 TEDx talk, like run, do not walk to watch it after this session. It is truly incredible. So, so excited to share the stage with you too.
Yes, I paid her to say that. So, thank you, thank you. Before we get to our discussion, let's look and see what you all said about whether you have work-life balance. 50-50. So we have half of the room, and half of our participants say that they do have it, and the other half are here to get tips and tools on, right, how to get it and then keep it. So, ladies, again, you are welcome to participate. If you have questions, you can put them in chat, and then if you are here with us, there are cards on your table, then we will have time for Q&A at the end. So, I don't know about you, but of course there's been a lot going on in 2020 and 2021. We're like, 52 months into 2020 at this point. So when it comes to conversations about work, especially conversations that are centering women, I feel like work-life balance comes up all the time. So is it a myth? And if not, what does it look like for you? What does work-life balance look like in your life?
I can go first. So first, to the 50% of you that think you don't have it, I did it every way wrong before I've even remotely started to get it a little bit right, so I just want to put that out there. But I do think that there's work-life balance out there, and I think the mistake that most of us make, or that I know I made early on, is that we think work-life balance means work and life never intersect. And that's just not true. The trick is that your life isn't the thing that you escape to get away from work. And it's okay if work is a part of who you are. It's okay if someone looks at you and thinks that, you know, you're a great realtor, or you're a great financial manager, or you're a great people person, if that's the type of job that you have, because that's who you are. And the sooner you realize that those things can complement each other, I think the sooner we get to a point where we start to get towards that balance, right? And I think it's knowing that it's not always going to look the same. It's not being really strict with it. It's, you know, not, I always leave work at 5, and maybe sometimes work is more, and sometimes life is more. You know, I think that happens to me at different times throughout the year. But when I allow that to just happen naturally, and I don't try to force one or the other, that's when it happens the best. I think that's when I'm the happiest. I think other people can see I'm the happiest too. That's when I'm my best self. So I just encourage you to not try to fit it in a box, not try to get it right all the time. And I think that that's when you will start to get it right and you'll start to move in the right direction. But I definitely think it's something that we can all achieve, and that it's definitely a thing.
Thank you.
I would echo everything that she said. When I'm my best self, I am in balance with, we talked about when we got together to got to know each other before this panel today, and Amber talked about the 5 balls in the air. How many of you guys have heard about these 5 balls that if you keep them juggling in the air, then there's balance, right? And James Patterson, I had to go back, and I had a mentor that in 2003 wrote me this sweet card and talked about these 5 balls. And I go back to that still. Work is a rubber ball. So yes, we will have highs and lows, and we can recover, right? So when we have a loss or a disappointment, we can overcome that. But when you start talking about your health, and that's mental health for me as much as it is physical, those two make a huge impact in me being able to be my best self. So it's keeping my health and wellness. It's keeping my family. It's the me time too. It's making sure that my spiritual life is also in balance. And so those balls, when they drop, they are irrevocable, right? Sometimes they chip, they can break. There are long-term consequences, not just on myself. So finding balance is definitely working and striving to make sure that I'm keeping those balls juggling in the air.
Catherine?
Okay, so in my introduction, I failed to admit that I'm also in the 40-year-old club, and I feel like this is part of being in the club as work-life balance starts to get a little easier. And for me, what I think it was a mental shift of, okay, here's everything that has to happen in a day, and that would be 60 hours in my 24-hour day. And the old me felt a sense like I needed to prove that I could do all of those things. The new me is able to say no without explanation, as much as I need to say no to guard my time. So my time, I've realized, is the most precious commodity I have, more precious than money, and this is a financial planner saying that. So if the goal is to guard my time so that I can spend it however I want, whether it's with my family or paddleboarding on the Little Maumelle River, like whatever it is, like that is my time, that is my happy time. How do I make sure to achieve that? Well, guess what? I buy my time back. I buy my time. You can buy your time back. Did you know that? That's what I do. So whether it's outsourcing things at work or it's outsourcing things in the home life, that the things that I don't enjoy doing, I now feel confident enough in myself and who I am that I don't have to do everything anymore. And that's a liberating feeling.
Thank you very much. And since I am almost in the 40 club, I'm happy to know that if I'm doing it wrong now, when I turn 40, I'll just automatically start doing it right. So I really appreciate that.
There's a switch.
There's a
It
switch.
flips.
I'm so happy to know that. Sarah Catherine, I'm going to come back to you because in today's world, there's an app for that. There's an app for everything. So how do you go about managing your day-to-day life? Or do you have a whole planner like that you print things out like me and write things down?
Okay, so that's really great. And I love talking about, we don't use the B word, budgeting. We use cash flow management, okay? So this is what we do. This is the new way we talk about financial management. Okay, so yes, there is an app for that, and I recommend everybody use this app, and it's probably on every one of your phones. And it is your online bank account. So if you have an app for your online bank account, there is your budget. Now, here is how we do it. So there's two ways to budget. You can budget bottom up, okay? So you can literally like track every expense and you're at Kroger and you've got 3 kids screaming in the cart and you have just checked out and you pull up your budgeting app and you type that you just spent $75 at Kroger and you get to, feel bad about yourself. That's bottom up budgeting, okay? So we don't, that is not my favorite way to do things and we know long term that those don't work. Okay, so here is what works. Top-down budgeting. Pay yourself first. Okay, so you literally make the money disappear out of your account to where it needs to go and then spend the rest. Right? Like it's amazing. So you have several different savings accounts at your bank, and one is for home repairs. You put a little bit of money every month into that. One is for buying your next car. Put a little bit of money into that. One is for birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries. All those women get nailed with gift giving throughout the year. Put a little money into that account every single month. Have it automated out of your checking account every month. Have it leave your account before your paycheck hits. All that money goes into all those savings accounts before you have a chance to even think about wanting to spend that money. And then whatever is left over in your checking account, you can safely spend it. That is absolutely the most successful way to cash manage your money, and yet so few people do it. And people think money management has to be hard. And the funniest thing is the simpler it is, the more likely it's going to sustain itself. And this time and time again is called a pay yourself first system, has been proven to be the best way to budget.
Thank you. And I appreciate this information. I also wish that you hadn't delivered it in front of my husband because now I'll be responsible for cash flow management. But if I heard you correctly, you said send the money to my makeup account first and then do other stuff after that.
Hey, listen, you get to define the priorities.
Okay.
I have a Tesla account.
Can you get me a Tesla account? Yes. Brandy, in your line of work, 8 to 5 is not always a thing. So how do you go about prioritizing those glass balls and cotton balls?
That's a hard question. In the environment that I'm in right now, I am constantly adapting. So as most of you know, the real estate market is very volatile. We have very low inventory. So it's very common for me to switch and have to, I call it pivot and adapt my schedule to the needs of clients. And that's just a part of the environment that I'm in. I know that that's not a long-term thing. So when I look at my schedule, I'm very intentional and very purposeful. And I also know at this point in my life when I'm in balance. And so when my cup is nearing empty, I know I need help. And I think that that's also in the 40s club. I have no problem asking for help and then also delegating. So I would just say one of the best practices that I also really strive for is to surround myself with really great people people that I pour into, but I also get as much from them. So really I encourage you to kind of look at your sphere of influence and the people that you surround yourself with, and really make sure that they place a very positive impact on your life, and that the relationship is both give and take.
Thank you very much. All right, so it is your time to answer a question now. Our audience, another yes or no question. And again, if you are virtual, then you are welcome to place that in chat. And if you are here, then you can use the cards that are on your table. But the question is, do you believe that you're able to set boundaries in your life, that you can say no when it is needed and necessary? No. And while you are answering that, we'll get into some, I guess, deeper questions with our panel. Very often when it comes to successful women, people see the Facebook posts or the articles, and they see all the highlights. But rarely do we see, if you will, the stick-to-itness, right? The late nights, all of the work and the grit that it takes to get there. So can you share with us maybe some habits that you had to break, or some things that you had to put into practice in order to become the amazing woman that you are today?
I would say that growth, really surrounding myself with tools and wisdom of experts, and that is inside the state and outside. I think really, again, surrounding yourself with people that can pour into you and you pour into them. I think when I look at my career at Alltel, I was so fortunate to work for some really strong leaders that taught me how important integrity and respect and professionalism are. Those core values are non-negotiable. And so then also when you start surrounding yourself with people, it's like, okay, how do I stay encouraged and inspired? My work is a passion. It is absolutely a part of who I am, and it does bleed into my personal life. And so my family, we're in step on being flexible, and it doesn't work for everybody. I also would say that at the end of every week, I look back and think about the lessons learned. If I'm out of balance or there's a negative shadow in my life, I work really hard to examine that and say, okay, how can I improve that next week? How can I work to resolve that? We are all problem solvers and work super hard to make sure that we have that positive sphere of influence surrounding us to be our best selves.
I would say the biggest habit that I had to break, and I know that it is common of a lot of people, so it almost sounds cliche, but I had to learn to say no. I'm also not egotistical, but I have a giving heart. And so when someone asks me to do something, I want to say yes, but then I want to do it to my best ability. And that's not possible when you say yes to everything. And when it dawned on me, when I was running every weekend, both literally running to train for a marathon and running around like a mad woman to all these events, and I was saying no to things that were really important to me because I had already committed to things that weren't so important that I needed to do really well. It was about halfway through the pandemic. The world was shut down, and I was sitting on my couch, and I realized at that moment that I had had more control over my schedule in that year than I had ever had in my adult life. That there weren't events being done that I felt I needed to help with. There weren't meetings, there weren't board meetings, there weren't showers to go to and birthday parties to go to and races to go to, and there weren't just all the things. And so as life gets back to normal, I'm so excited to see that happen, but I can feel myself falling back into that same routine. And so it's just trying to figure out how to shift priorities, how to figure out what is my goal? What do I want to do And if it changes from month to month or week to week or season to season, that's okay. You know, when I was 30, my goal was to run a marathon in every state. I have not done that, and I no longer desire to do that. But that's okay. That's okay. Now I want to do other things with my time that are important to me, like spend time with my family, who I saw more in 2020 than I saw in the years from 2014 to 2019. So it's just figuring out what your priorities are, and maybe it's intentionally taking a month of your time now and just give yourself, you know, we have challenges all the time, water challenges and squat challenges and spending challenges. Maybe challenge yourself to say no for a month and see where your priorities line up and what you can do. And I think that will help you just take a step back and find, what Brandy was talking about, just reset your priorities.
That's so good. And to be clear, you did run 11 marathons in 10 years. So let's be real about that.
But that's not many compared to my friends.
Sarah Catherine, that's not 50 though. That's not 50.
I just want to stay for the record. And I am also 1 week into a no spend challenge, and I don't recommend it. But okay, but actually I do. But yes. So I want to give one little story. So when I was graduating from Harvard Kennedy School, it was back in 2007. I got the most unusual commencement speech, and it was from David Gergen, and he said, "You know, I am sick and tired of standing in front of graduates like you all, and I know what's going to happen. You're just going to go get a good job. It's going to pay you a lot of money, and then you're going to get handcuffed to that job." And then he follows this up with a very detailed PowerPoint presentation supporting that theory. And I just remember looking at him, and I'm about to go start a job, a very good job, and I realized that I had been working since I was 12 years old. And at that moment, all I had to show for it was the student loan debt from that education. And I was like, he's literally talking to me. So I come back to Arkansas, I start my really great job, and I did the opposite. I decided to do the opposite of what I would always do. So I would think, what am I going to do? And I think, let's do the opposite. So I was going to get a car payment, so I bought an old $3,000 clunker car. I was going to get one of those nice apartments down in Riverdale everybody was getting, and I didn't. I got a $475 a month little tiny apartment in Hillcrest. And I started my dream job, the one I had been doing internships at 3 summers in college, the one I had been working and educating myself for. I started it, and folks, talk about failure. I was not good at my job. I was not, objectively, so I'd been an outperformer, top of the class all the time, top performer in old jobs, and this, my dream one, was not right. So lots and lots of therapy, and I started a 4 a.m. meditation practice that I still do to this day. And I, first of all, realized that it's okay to not be good at something. It's not the job's fault. It's not anybody else's fault, and it just is what it is. And I also had one other thing. I had a big old pile of cash in a savings account because I had been saving. And basically, the two things conspired that when I got an idea for a business, I realized that I needed to take that idea. And I'm telling you, if I didn't have that pile of cash sitting there, I never would have started that business. Because I thought to myself, oh God, Sarah Catherine, what's going to happen? I mean, you could maybe not make money for a whole year. Yeah, 6 years, I did not make money. 6 years. But that was my secret. And I don't think that building a pile of cash is just unique for starting a job. So if you don't have an entrepreneurial bone in your body, that's great. Only 10% of people apparently do. No worries. I have seen people have that pile of cash, we also call it emergency fund, and be able to walk away from abusive jobs, to be able to reduce their hours during pivotal times in their kids' lives. This is what I'm talking about, and this is something that I felt and experienced firsthand, and I know it changed the entire trajectory of my life because I had it.
Thank you very much. And if you are keeping up with these gems and jewels so far, right, we have that accountability makes a difference, that we need to learn to say no, which I am going to implement with my sons today, just no. And then making sure that we have a pile of cash somewhere is the last thing that we also need to make sure.
I'm just trying not to use trigger words like savings accounts and budgets.
Oh, okay. Yes, as we cash flow manage with our large pile of cash. Kristin, I'm going to come back to you, though. You are a wellness manager at an institution that manages wellness, right? How exactly do you take what you've learned and allow other people to show up? How do you, encourage them to have work-life balance and to show up as their whole self?
So I will say I am lucky to work for a company that values wellness. It is one of our core values. So I do know that I have that in my favor, but you still have to model it, right? And I really do try to model the behavior. I try to be truthful with not just my staff, with the other employees. If I'm being honest, I have a staff of one, but I serve 3,100 internal customers when I'm talking to our employees. So I try to just remind them, and I think this is hard, whether you're male or female, but you really need to put yourself first. And not just your immediate needs, but long-term, your health and wellness. Whether that's you're, sitting down and taking 5 minutes every day to sit in your car or take a deep breath or just kind of step back and kind of survey what's going on. But particularly when people are feeling overwhelmed at work, I know sometimes you don't think you have control over your workflow, but you really do. Even if your boss or someone above you or above your boss is giving you a project to work on, if you really know what your values are, if you really know what your purpose is, not your purpose at work, but your purpose in life, if you're a mom and your purpose is to be home at 5 o'clock with your kids every day, you can let that drive those decisions. And I encourage people to do that, because you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone that if you say it's really important for me to have dinner with my son at 5:30 tonight, so I need to do this report in the morning, not a lot of people are going to tell you, no, you have to miss dinner with your kid and do this right now. Or they'll at least work with you on an amicable solution, right? So that's something that I think is important. But I also have these 4 questions, and if you've ever heard me speak before, you've heard me talk about these, but I don't think I can ever drive them home enough. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I feel like I have a million plates spinning in the air, I have these 4 questions that I ask myself. They're actually written on a whiteboard in my office, and they're written on a note card in my portfolio. But the 4 questions that I ask myself are, and that I encourage everyone to ask when they're trying to prioritize things at work or in personal life, is, what is my desired outcome? Does it help me achieve my goals? Does it serve my purpose? And if I didn't do it, would anybody notice or would anybody get hurt? And that's really the crux of it, and that can really help you prioritize, figure out what you can give away, what you can delegate, what you can just get rid of. I mean, there are some things that I inherited at work, I shouldn't say inherited, but like processes that I'd been doing for a while. And then I stopped doing them, and in 2.5 years, no one's ever asked me for the information. So, I mean, I have it where I could easily access it, but I'm just saying there's not always, that's why the first question is, what is my desired outcome? And if you don't know, then that's probably something that you can set off to the side or, dig deeper on later. So that would be my advice, and that's what I advise our people.
Thank you very much. It kind of sounds like, my friends and I, we like to take up space. I want to come in a space and I want to take up so much space being my authentic self that 3 people can sit down next to me. And then those people take up so much space that 3 people can sit down next to them. But when we do things, we say, well, did you take up space? Right? And that's a reminder for us to make sure that we're being authentic and true to ourselves, but then not making ourselves small, because that's also a part of being exhausted. And then additionally, making sure that we check in. So we ask this question, or I ask myself this sometimes 3 times a day. For me to be me, I need. And I ask myself that every day. Sometimes it means I need a Red Bull. Sometimes it means I need a nap. And my 4 questions are a little different. I ask, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Nothing good happens when those things are happening. So Those are the 4 questions that I asked. They're not as deep as yours, but if I take care of those, sometimes the other things go away. So as far as your poll question, can you say no? 80% of our audience said yes. They are able to say no when it is needed and necessary. So you all passed. You don't have to stay for the rest of this panel. All right? All right. Our third question. When it comes to your workplace, do you feel that your company leadership needs to be authentic and show vulnerability? We'll give you time to answer that. While I ask you all, those words are coming up a lot nowadays, authenticity and vulnerability, and those aren't things that I felt like we previously discussed in professional spaces. It is asking us to allow for grace and other such things. So, one, what do those words mean to you? And do you implement them in your leadership style or in your life? And what does it look like? We'll start with you, Sarah Catherine.
Oh,
Tag, you're it.
so I'm going to get all Brene Brown on everyone here, okay? Brene Brown actually saved me during COVID. To your point, I spent a lot of time, long walks, listening to her podcast. But yeah, I mean, that is life, in my opinion. So again, you know, getting into the age 40 club, I have realized that authenticity is everything. And part of that is letting go of the fear of what other people might think if fill in the blank. But it's still not scrubbed out of me. So I bought a paddleboard because I loved doing it one time and decided I was a paddleboarder. And so then, of course, this financial planner went and bought one because I loved it after doing it one time. And so it sat in my garage for a month, and I had gone through all of they're heavy, so I'd gone through all of the iterations of how to get into my husband's truck, drive it down there, put it into the water, and do it. And so I wasn't doing it. And finally I said to my husband, look, can you just ride in the truck just down there and just be there while I launch, and then I'll call you when I come back? And he said, sure. He said, why do you want me to do this? I'm not helping you. And I said, well, I'm afraid of looking like a fool out there, and I just want someone standing by there, you know, taking the heat with me. And he said, fine, I will do it. But he said, I promise you one day that thought will never even enter your head. And I am married to someone who is a very authentic person, and I see the freedom from it, and I know that that is the goal. And so over this past year and a half, I have been working towards living a far more authentic life and being able to authentically do the things that I love, authentically be able to say no to the things that I don't want to do, and it is a very freeing way to live. And as the CEO of a company, and got quite a few people who now work for me, I am trying to model that. So I authentically want to have work-life balance, but how can I talk about work-life balance if I'm working 60 hours? What does that say? And so that is what I'm trying to model. Like, I can work a 20-hour week. I can work a 30-hour week. I can put my family first and still be very successful, and I have to model that authentically. I can't just say that, oh yes, you can have a successful career with flexible hours at Aptus, but meanwhile I'm busting it out here for 50 to 60 hours a week. It's not gonna work. And so that has been really freeing too, to be able to work a very decent schedule that achieves the work-life balance.
Thank you, I love it. I often say that what other people think about me is none of my business, right? So if I can just focus on what I think, and I often just ask the universe to search and expose me. That way the people around me hold me accountable for who I want to be, and that I continue to work harder to be that person. Kristin?
Well, I was just going to say, kind of on the heels of you, one of my favorite quotes, and this is really just to you, but you all can listen to. One of my favorite quotes is, everyone else is too worried about themselves to worry about you. And I feel like that should be the guiding principle in all of our lives. And if you think about it, like, think about, we have friends over and we're so worried about how clean our house is. But have you ever gone to a friend's house and been like, her house is so dirty, I can't be her friend anymore? Like, when does that ever happen? And so I think that You know, and the question asked about authenticity and vulnerability, and I do think we've overcorrected a little bit on the vulnerability. Like, I think people see vulnerability as I have to tell everyone what's wrong with me all the time. Not like in a complainy way, but if you see I struggle, you'll know it's okay to struggle too. And what I really think we need to talk about, not authenticity and vulnerability, but authenticity and transparency, and letting people know where you're coming from and why you're coming from that angle, or what your thoughts are about something, not necessarily that was hard for you, not that you're living this, you know, you had this hard struggle, but this is what happened to me, but this is how I overcame it, so I know you can do it too. I think that that's important too. And yes, no one cares what you're doing. No one cares if you have 2 different shoes on. We've all been there. We probably appreciate you more for it, honestly.
I would love to see you wear 2 different shoes. Yes.
I would just add, I echo everything these women have said. I mean, such wisdom, and it's so good to just hear it sometimes from someone else. I'm reading a book right now, and I'm rereading it actually, and I made a note to share it with you because it's another one of those really best practices it's been for me. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. If you haven't read it, pick it up. I've got highlights and then sticky notes hanging out in all different colors, because no matter what phase of life I'm in, what journey I'm experiencing, what curveball, I pull that book back out and it has so much truth. And in the beginning of it, he quotes Shakespeare, to thine self be true. And so I would just echo that authenticity to me is remembering to always be true to myself and others. And really striving to give grace as much as I ask for it. So with our team, our company, always showing transparency. So I don't always have my stuff together, even in 44, and it's okay to say that. Like, I don't have it together. I think at 40, you kind of realize it, and it's like, okay. In my 30s, I was still trying so hard to have it all together and to have it be perfect. And now in my 40s, it's like, okay, I don't always have it all together, and that's okay. And so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to try this tactic or this strategy, and it's like planning with intention and integrity.
Thank you. So I have one last question before we get to our Q&A section. So if you have questions for our panelists, you can put them in the chat, or you're welcome to write them on that card. And when it's time for Q&A, we'll walk around and pick them up. Brandy, my question is for you. In your company, community is important. It's something you even spoke about when we were getting to know each other, and now we're best friends. How do you use community to show up authentically, right? And how do you use it to build relationships with others?
I love the topic of community. Again, I'm my best self when we're giving back and helping make a positive difference. And our community needs us too. And so it also feels good to be needed. Our company, we intentionally partner with a nonprofit every single year. And this was a way for me to expand my knowledge of what the needs are in Little Rock and Central Arkansas. But we not only partner with our financial gifts, but we also partner with our time in volunteering. And it's an opportunity for everyone in our company. When I poll people at the end of the year, one of their favorite things about the year is that we're able to spend time together having fun and not focused on work and making a difference. This year, if you haven't heard of Home for Healing, I would encourage you. Kristin Trulox is the executive director. I have to plug her because she's amazing, and it's an incredible resource that houses people that are undergoing cancer treatment that really need a home and do need healing. And so again, community means different things for different people, but really giving back and helping make a positive difference. Like, we all have lights to shine. And so how can we do that in our community? I always get back so much more than I give when we're connected with our community.
Thank you very much. So let's take a look at the answers from that poll question. And what did you all say? Do you feel your leadership needs to be authentic and transparent? That's what we'll say. All right. Most people said yes, sometimes, usually. Think that we're somewhere in between. I want to know stuff, but not everything. Right? That's what it sounds like. Okay. So we have questions from the audience at this point. If there are questions that. Thank you. All right. Kristin, how did you shift and navigate your career to a new industry?
Okay, I'm going to give you the shortest answer I know how to give. So I moved to Little Rock in 2012. I had stepped away from about 10 years in higher education at that point. I worked in enrollment management, came here without a job. I was with my partner at the time, and we moved here for his career. And I just really couldn't find a job that I liked. And so I started teaching fitness classes. I started trying to write a blog. I was working 40 hours a week in a job that I was good at and that had a steady paycheck, but that I didn't like. And so a friend of mine who was also into health and wellness at that time inspired me to kind of take control of that. And so I was teaching one fitness class a week at Arkansas Blue Cross. In addition to everything else that I was doing. I was, at that time, when this happened, I was leaving my house at 5 o'clock every morning and getting home at 8 o'clock every night because I was teaching fitness classes a lot, training for marathons, and working a 40-hour-a-week job. So anyway, I was teaching one fitness class a week at Blue Cross, and I decided I wanted to go back to school to get a second master's degree in exercise science, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to fit it in. So I went to the person who oversaw Club Blue at that time and said, I need a job. Can you give me some extra hours a week so I can quit my non-health related job and focus on a career in health? And it was a contract position, and she gave me 20 hours a week. And now I have her job, but 7 years later. But I don't know if I navigated it in the most, I don't know what the right word is, in the best way, but I did it in the best way I knew how. And I knew that if I asked her for a job, the worst thing she could say was no. And if she said no, I was going to be in the exact same situation as I was in before I asked her. So I asked, and it worked out. And so here I am. So that was it. That was all I did. I just asked a question.
Thank you very much. We have a question that says, when you are young in your career, how do you balance work life when there is pressure to work hard and advance? So, being the youngest, I'm going to say that my mom gave me advice, and she said that what's for me won't miss me. And I used to say yes to all of these opportunities as though they wouldn't come back around, right? That I was afraid that I would miss that one opportunity that got me the place that I really, really wanted to be. But what is for me or meant for me is not going to miss me, even if I say no to the next three, right? When I do say yes to it, when it's mine, it's mine. So it kind of gave me the ability to breathe and not to go after every opportunity, and to become what I like to call a microphone passer. Like, there are opportunities that I know someone else could use, and I don't have to go after all of them. I can say, hey, you know what? You should contact so-and-so. I think they would be better for this opportunity.
I would love to answer that too. I mean, I think you're right. I also think too that there are seasons of life, and we're all coming out of the season of hustle, and I think you do have to hustle early in your career. You have to prove yourself. You have to do those things, but you shouldn't have to continue to do the hustle throughout your career. And so I hope if anyone's going to take away, I know it's more subtle, but I think that there is a fair expectation that when I was interning in college, like, I would turn on the lights at 6:30 a.m. and I'd be there until the last analyst left at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. or later. And I don't regret doing that. I wouldn't do it now.
Well, and I think if your hustle looks different than someone else's hustle, that's okay. It's going to look different for everybody, depending on where you work, what environment you're in, and what you have in the outside. It goes back to that work-life balance, right?
Sorry, I cut you off. So, because we are nearing the end of our time together, if you had to make sure, or if you wanted to make sure that these incredible audience participants left with one thing, something that they can grab onto and keep with them, what would that be?
I'd say take calculated risks. Even when I fail or come short, I learned so much. And so really come up with a plan, and then I would say surround yourself with mentors or people that have wisdom and expertise that you can learn from.
I would say the same. Keep coming to events like this. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. Just get into that habit and just do you. I mean, you're who you are. No, don't let anyone take that away from you.
I love all of those, and I'll just add something that I'm really passionate about is talking about this notion of time and money, and so constantly keeping that balance in your head about how those two interact. Right now, everyone says time is money, meaning like you waste time, you're wasting money. What about money is time? You waste money, you might be wasting time. And so I love to challenge people that if you have been on the fence about living below your means, because we have a hyper-consumerism society that makes it really hard to save. Just remember that if you take that chance and you start saving, you have no idea what you're going to be doing for your future time, your future self. So that's my best advice, is money is time, folks.
Thank you. I'm so glad we had this time together. I don't know what comes after that, but if you are not already Facebook stalking these amazing women, please do so now. I want to thank each of you for sharing your time, your lived experiences, and your advice with us today. Would you please give them another round of applause? I'm grateful that you allowed me to facilitate this conversation. I am Amber Nicole, your favorite diversity specialist. And please join me in welcoming back to the stage Jay Cheshire, the president and CEO of Little Rock Regional Chamber.
Meeting in the middle. Wow. Edified, blessed, encouraged, excited. What an amazing set of ladies as a panel to come and talk to us today about their life experiences, not only before, but obviously what's happening today. And, you know, as you sit and you listen and you watch and you know a little bit about the story of each of them, you see that it is okay to be authentic from a transparent perspective. And I was sitting there smiling, being the father of an amazing daughter, and now, as of Monday, the grandfather of an amazing granddaughter. So forget the vulnerable thing. But I was sitting there thinking, wow, I hope I can have my granddaughter see this when she's old enough to understand it. So on behalf of a vulnerable, emotional person standing in front of you at a microphone, I would like to thank all of you for being a part of today's event. You know, I hope that you also have been inspired and challenged. And I want to say a very special thanks to Amber, to Sarah Catherine, to Kristin and Brandy, because they not only shared their experience, their experiences, they've shared their lives, and we really appreciate that. We hope that you'll also join us again for our last session this year on mentorship and the importance of the power circle. It's going to be on November the 10th. To register, you can, and also learn more details, you can go to our chamber website, www.littlerockchamber.com. We want to thank all of those that not only joined us in person, but also virtually. And we really want to say a special thank you to our presenting sponsor, Dassault Falcon Jet, as well as our Q&A sponsor, Delta Dental, our series lunch sponsor, Capital Sotheby's International Realty, our series partner sponsors, First Security Bank, Wright Lindsay Jennings, and Southwest Power Pool, and our swag bag sponsor, Apartment Hunters, as well as this session's sponsor, Baptist Health. So that was a whole lot of people, and a whole lot of organizations and corporations who believe in what we're doing and what you're doing, having you tell your stories so that others can benefit from that and can also encourage others along the way. We want to let you know that our Women's Business Luncheon will be on October the 28th. It will honor the legacy of the Junior League of Little Rock. As they embark on their 100th year anniversary, you can reserve your tables or tickets here today at the check-in table or by contacting our amazing Director of Programs, an amazing woman in her own right, Stacy Wilson. Let's give Stacy a big round of applause. I see her back there. She and our entire team, I'm blessed to work with and for a lot of wonderful ladies, and she's a great example of that. Please continue to check our website for upcoming events. We had a business after hours that we're going to reschedule from September to early November, so we'll be sending you more information about that. Go make a difference, not only in your home, but also in your business, your organization, and community. We're blessed to be a part of this place we call Little Rock. Have a great day.